Australian as they come, that's Holden.
Holden, you in my Holden. Life is simply divine. All the world is fair. I'm a millionaire on the road ahead. There's a happy sign. Holden, you in my Holden. You were meant to be mine. We will have a wedding. No regretting. Baby, ain't that fine? Now we can't expect all sunny weather. Troubles come, my dear. But as long as we're to travel together, we'll take them all in top gear. Holding you in my Holden.
Lion's Den, Episode 49. Coyle's House, 7th of August 1945. Tea time.
Tea is ready, Fred.
Thank you, Bobby.
How are things at the recruiting department, Fred?
Things are starting to wind down, Bobby. I think the war is close to an end.
I do hope so. Colin said he thought the Japanese would fight to the last man. Could you switch on the radio, please?
Yes, of course.
Here is the news. A special report tonight. The first atomic bomb at Hiroshima at 8:15 yesterday morning, 6th August 1945. The Japanese city of Hiroshima was devastated by the first atomic bomb to be used as a weapon of war. The bomb, nicknamed Little Boy, was dropped from U.S. Air Force B-29 bomber Enola Gay and exploded some 1,800 feet above the city. Atomic bomb warning to Japs. People told of horrors of new weapon. Intensive broadcast campaign. From our own correspondent in New York and AAP, now that an atomic bomb has been dropped on Japan, all possible means are being used to tell the Japanese of the horrors of the bomb and, at the same time, to drive home to them the Potsdam Surrender terms. 4 powerful Office of War information stations are broadcasting news to Japan, while leaflets being produced at Saipan and Manila will be dropped over Japanese communities and troop concentrations. The 2 regular newspapers, which are carried to Japan weekly by superfortresses, Jiho, published on Saipan, and Rakuten, published in Manila, will lead with the atomic bomb story. The Office of War Information revealed yesterday that the transmission to Japan began immediately after President Truman's statement that the atomic bomb was already in use was issued. New York Times, Washington correspondent says, while Mr. Stimson, U.S. War Secretary, said the atomic bomb should prove a tremendous aid in shortening the war against Japan, other responsible officials thought that that was an extreme understatement, and that Japan might be unable to remain in the war under the coming reign of atomic bombs. Obviously, the news was released now. The correspondent adds, because of the possible psychological effect in forcing the Japanese to surrender. Details awaited. Meanwhile, London is eagerly awaiting an official statement on the scientific details of the atomic bomb, which Sir John Anderson, who supervised research work in Britain, said would be issued in a few days. Press Association says it is clear from the announcements already made that the industrial application of this new source of energy will require many years of research and development before it is ready for exploitation. Reuters military correspondent says it seems that the secret of the atomic bomb will not be shared by any power other than those directly concerned with its production. As soon as the Big Three's experts had an opportunity to study all the strategic implications, it is likely that consultations will begin to consider methods for the agreed control of the super bomb's manufacture and use. Its offensive use at the moment are in the limelight, but its use in defense may equally outmode the present form of aerial warfare. So far, experts have been unable to do anything more than grasp the sheer magnitude of the revolution facing them. But the Big Three governments are expected to act speedily to regulate this unforeseen situation. Vatican opposed to atomic bombing of Japan. An authoritative Vatican source declared that the Vatican was absolutely opposed to the atomic bombing of Japan, says Associated Press of America correspondent in Vatican City. The Catholic Church has equal pity for all subjected to atomic bombing and cannot make any distinction amongst victims, said the authority. The discovery of the atomic bomb has caused an unfavorable impression in the Vatican, because the use of atomic bombs might be the first link in a chain of unpredictable violence. The Vatican Press Bulletin said the atomic bomb revelations had made a deep impression on Vatican City, not so much on account of the use already made of the new death instrument, as for the sinister shadow that the discovery of this weapon casts over the future of humanity. That was the news. More news at 11 p.m.
Oh my God, Fred! An entire city wiped out in a minute?
I am stunned. I can't comprehend what I just heard.
I know! It's too horrid to think about. I know the Japanese have been vicious fighters, but something like this? On a city mostly filled with civilians, women and children?
Joy Mitchell's flat, East Malvern.
Well, Joy, one door closes and another opens.
Yes, quite literally. We have to hand our keys in at 12.
Yes, best move ever. Now we are working at GMH and it will be less travelling time.
Joy and Elsie's new flat, just after tea, 10th August 1945.
Great stew, Else. That makes me the dishwasher. Could you turn on the radio, please, Else? I can listen while I wash.
Sure, Joy.
Here is the news. Special news broadcast. Atomic bomb dropped on port of Nagasaki from Axel Olsen and AAP Guam. A second atomic bomb was dropped on Japan yesterday, when the target was Nagasaki, major shipbuilding and repair center on the west coast of Kyushu. A brief message from the superfortress which dropped the bomb said, "Results good. Details will not be available until the bomber returns to the Marianas." It is certain, however, that the enormous destruction caused in Hiroshima on Monday, when more than 4 square miles of the city were wiped out, will be equalled in Nagasaki. Nagasaki has a population of 253,000. The centre of the city is heavily congested, with thousands of houses packed into an area described as a sea of roofs. Associated Press says more than one atomic bomb may have been dropped on Nagasaki. A careful worded communique said only that a second use of the atomic bomb had occurred, leaving other details to speculation. The Japanese news agency Domae says 300 American bombers and fighters attacked Hiroshima and Yamaguchi prefectures before noon yesterday. Victims of the first atomic bomb may have died in a fleeting temperature of 2 million degrees centigrade, according to scientific calculations made when the atom was first split in 1939, writes a correspondent of New York's Herald Tribune. It would be incorrect to say that the victims were burned to death, because rays generated at the almost incredible heat explode atoms in an unimaginably short instant when those human beings suffered the effects of the atomic bomb. Millions of explosions were probably touched off in atoms comprising flesh, blood, and bones. Hiroshima's people died a death nobody had died before. That was the news. More news at 11 p.m.
My God! They did it again?
Oh, wow, Joy. I can't believe it. The Jap are just not going to quit. How can the Emperor just waste tens of thousands of lives?
I think it's because he truly believes he is God.
Oh my God, Colin! A second bomb? Where will it end?
I don't know. The Japanese were tenacious fighters in World War I, and they've shown to be fanatical now. They would rather die than surrender.
I hope he considers the loss of his people.
I hope so too.
I like aeroplane jelly. Aeroplane jelly for me. I like it for dinner. I like it for tea. A little each day is a good recipe. I like aeroplane jelly. Aeroplane jelly for me.
Australian as they come. That's Holden.
Holden, you in my Holden. Life is simply divine. All the world is fair. I'm a millionaire. On the road ahead, there's a happy sign. Holden, you in my Holden. You were meant to be mine. We will have a wedding, no regretting, baby, ain't that fine? Now we can't expect all sunny weather, troubles come, my dear, but a slight